Okay, let us start. Okay, so we have seen count min sketch. Okay, now I said it is a sketch. Now you can check it is indeed a sketch. Now exercise, is it a linear sketch? It is linear sketch. So you can check whether it is a linear sketch or not. Okay. Now what does it do? Um, it will give you a data structure. What is this data structure? Like there are W times D counter. Okay. Now where D is this quantity, W is this quantity. So that many counters, it will be storing, that many values. And if you want to, get an estimate of xi, which is xi tilde, what you do, you will go to each row and look at the place where actually I is mapped to. Per row, you will see one particular location, one counter. And so you collect these D counter values. Among these D counter values, you pick the minimum one and you just output it. Okay. So the algorithm will give you, a data structure where you can do some post processing operation and it will give you xi tilde for every I. Okay. So if you want x1, you do it for, x1 tilde, you do it for, 1. And then if you want x2 tilde, and so if you want all of them, then you do it n times. Okay, n times queried here. And then you will get some value and then you output. And it will have this guarantee, all together, right? It's like for like probability, like the quantification is here with the probability this much for all this happens. But if you notice the quantification here, it is different. For any fixed I, the probability is this much. Okay. If you want to do the quantification the other way around, then you need to increase D. That's what we did. Okay. So with very high probability, 1 by 1 minus 1 by n, all the estimates, all the xi tilde estimate for all I is very good, is very close. Close in the sense within this. Like it is always greater than, like, or in other words, it's always greater than, not getting, uh, just 1 minute, it's not getting updated. Okay, my Zoom in my iPad got disconnected, so I will connect it again. Okay, so we have seen count min sketch, and the exercise is it a linear sketch? Okay. Now look for the heavy hitters problem. What we need? We need something which is like xi is greater than or equal to alpha times x1. What is alpha? Alpha is equal to 1 by k. Okay. So what you do is, so I can consider like I can apply count min sketch. I will get x1 tilde, x2 tilde, etc. up to xn tilde. Okay. And look for all the xi tilde such that xi tilde is greater than alpha times, what is x1? The number of top. Like x1 can be like, this can be easily computed. Like like how to do f1. So the similar way you can do, like you just need to keep a counter, right? Like the absolute values of all the xi's. You just need to keep a counter within log and bits. You will be able to compute this. So look for all xi tilde such that xi tilde value is greater than alpha times, what is alpha? Alpha is equal to 1 by k. Okay, alpha times the value L1 norm of x. Okay, and you output to those. Okay, so how many such things will be there? K many. K, like here alpha is equal to 1 by k. And then what is the output of that algorithm? So that algorithm will be output, definitely it will be outputting all the all the items which has value at least alpha times x1, like L1 norm of x1. Okay, or in other words, L1 norm of x, you can think it as m. Okay, and but because of this, it may be outputting something more. What is that something more? Like those items whose value is like alpha minus epsilon times x1, because of this. Because if you think the xi tilde value, like it may get overestimated. So some of them was less than alpha, but it will get overestimated, and you will get it is like more than alpha times the L1 norm. And so, but will the tiny items will get that value? No, right? Because the addition can be at most epsilon times the L1 norm of x. So you will be outputting items whose value is, whose xi value is at least alpha minus epsilon times this the L1 norm of x. So unlike the Misra-Grace algorithm, where you will be outputting exactly those quantities, but here you will be outputting, if you apply the count min sketch, what you will be outputting is like a superset of your heavy. All the heavy hitters will be there, but it will contain some other elements. Okay, and what is that element? Like something which has like 1 by k minus epsilon times m. Suppose if fj has this, then this may be in your output. But number of such items will be bounded by at most k plus 1 by epsilon. Many of them, so it will be a small subset containing heavy hitters. Is that clear? How to apply count min sketch?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the algorithm. You do this one, and what you get is this. Or like what I want to say is a subset of this. A subset of this, but a superset of this. Now what we do is count sketch. Okay, so and in this talk we will do count sketch, and tomorrow we will do applications using count sketch. Okay, now this will work even if it is not a strict turnstile, but a turnstile model. Okay? And it's very similar to count min sketch. Okay, and how does it work? Okay, again, it has like, if you look at this procedure, it has two parameters, W and D. And where D represent the number of, number of hash functions, and the W is the width of the hash function. What do I mean by width of the hash function? The number of buckets to which the hash function do a mapping. Now here, okay, how does it, it's slightly different. Okay, so you will take H1, H2, HD. They are pairwise independent hash functions from N to W. So items to these buckets. And you will have another set of hash functions. They are called G1, G2, etc. up to GD. G1, G2, etc. up to GD, where each of this hash function is from N to -1, 1. Okay, so there are two sets of hash functions. Okay, and like we did it like in the case of count min sketch, we did, like we took the summation of the items which are mapped to same bucket. Okay, here what we are going to do is we are some sense going to do a signed summation. Okay, a signed summation. Okay, so it's not always we add things. Sometimes we just subtract. Okay, so that's what this -1 does. Okay, bit more explicitly, we will have this matrix where like the rows corresponds to hash functions, say H1, etc. up to HD, or like 1, 2, 3 up to D. Okay, so there are two hash functions, right? There are say what it is here, it is L. Okay, yeah, so there are like so like you have D hash functions H1 to HD, and another D hash functions that talks about signs, which is G1 to GD. Okay, so G1 to GD. Okay, and the width here is 1, 2, 3 up to W. Okay, and look at the location CLJ. So this is L here, and this is J here. CL J. What do I want to store here? Okay. Look at the items which are mapped to the jth bucket by the hash function HL. Okay. So suppose like for the ease of argument, let's say like 3 items mapped there. Among these x1 to xn, let me call it as x7, x10, and x25. Okay, so these are the items. So, or like 7 is mapped there, 10 is mapped there, 25 is mapped there. Then what, like these are the only things mapped there. Then what you want, what will be the value here will be like x7, not x7 plus, sorry, x10, x25. But here I will have a plus or minus 1 that depends on GL of 7 times this, and here GL of 10 times that. So it will, GL of 10 is actually plus 1 or minus 1. So either you add it or subtract it. And here what you will have is GL of 25. Okay. So this is what you will store. Okay. So all the time you may not like add it. Sometimes like even if it is like, so it may not be plus delta t. It will be plus GL of IT times delta t. Okay. So how does this update work? Look at the current stream. call it ET. Oh, this should be T. This J should be T. Okay. You know, IT comma delta T. So what does it say? Like in the X IT should be changed to XIT plus delta T. Okay. So what you do is you fix, you know, one particular row L. There, go to the corresponding bucket, that is the bucket HL of IT. There you do an addition of GL of IT times delta T. Okay? So is the update of the table clear? Like I will explain after that, after updating the table, how to construct this estimate Xi tilde, I will explain. Okay, but this update clear. So previously, you can think that all these G1, G2, etc. up to GD are like everything mapped to 1, then it is count min scale. Now, here instead of having like everything mapped to 1, it is a pairwise independent hash function where -1, 1, and then a signed summation, right? You are going to take a signed summation. Is the update of the table clear?
So the update is clear. So basically we are doing this count sketch to basically reduce the variance of the, is it like the median trick for the count min, right? I mean,
Yes. Okay.
basically,
So, yeah.
okay.
That is correct. So because previously we were doing over counting. So now
Yeah.
some sense I want to do, I don't want to say the over counting will take you to farther, right? So
Yeah.
it may be better if you do, let's say, so if Xi tilde is gone to somewhere and then some
Yeah.
other things also came there. So you
Oh,
are
okay,
going to
okay.
add all of them. So if
I
you
get
do,
it.
you know, some of them
Yeah.
add and some of them subtract, then you
Yeah.
will be much more closer.
Got it. And we take the
Correct?
median of that. So yeah, we should be closer. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So after updating that, how do I get the estimate Xi tilde? Xi tilde is like now where does Xi tilde should be there? Xi tilde should be there like look at each row and look at the counter where it is mapped to, right? Xi is mapped to in each row. And if you notice, and this, like in each of these counters, like say, look at the first counter, Xi tilde may be added as a negative entry, right? Say G1 may be telling that, okay, G1 of I is say -1. Then actually what you will be storing here, okay, minus Xi plus something, right? This plus something is a, you know, a positive or negative quantity, okay? And so if you want, you know, an estimate of Xi tilde, you need to throw away that minus. So how do you throw away that minus? You just multiply with the G1 of I, correct? So what you do is median of these numbers. If you take, you know, look at the quantity G1 of I, C1 of H1 of I, this will be Xi plus something. And this quantity could be negative, like after the plus, but it will be Xi plus. Because of this, say it could be the case that G1 of I is equal to negative, and if you don't have this G1 of I times that counter value, then you may be getting minus Xi plus something. Okay. So to have a correct estimate for Xi, you need to multiply with, you know, if it was -1, then G1 of I is -1. So you multiply with the G1 of, you know, 1, which is -1, and then this will become positive. Is that clear? Why we are multiplying with the Gi of 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So you go to that, you know, D locations, and in D location the counter values will be there, and in each of these counter value, like you multiplied with what sign for which you know, the ith element goes there, and so that you make, you know, Xi counting in a positive way, like positively X is counted, not negatively. And to do that, you multiplied with, you know, G of I, like G1 of I, for the first entry and for the second, like G2 of I, like that, and take the median. Okay. So like count_min, we have WD counters, and but counter value could become negative also, right? Like it could be that, or like when you do this signed summation, some of them will go negative, even if your input is, positive. Even if your all x's are positive, sometimes counter may go negative. Okay? So is the steps of the algorithm okay? Now we are going to do analysis. Any question? Please ask now. Oh. It's all on board?
Yes, sir, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Then let's move on. Okay. So as like before, like, each hash function spreads elements across these things, and why? So you have seen F2 estimation where you take, a 4-wise independent hash family, and then there is some -1 +1 in the morning session, right?
Yeah.
And then you do cancellation because of that -1. So that idea, that idea, like this, inspired by that idea, like the cancellation makes, closer things closer. Okay? So the answer may be negative even if x is greater than 0. Okay? Now here is the first thing we prove. Okay, so the notable difference here is the value, how it depends on epsilon. In the previous case, it was 2 by epsilon, but here it is 2 by epsilon square. Okay. So, and this quantity was same, right? Log 1 by delta, right? So omega of log 1 by delta. So here constant, you take it for. Okay. So now, so we don't have this property. We don't have previously. Xi tilde is greater than or equal to xi. This was the case in the case of count_min, and this is not there. Okay, this is not there. Okay, that is not there. But what we can prove is, okay, suppose you take d to be 4 log 1 by delta, and the w, the number of buckets for each hash functions, to be each of the hash functions named h1, h2, hd. Okay? For those hash functions, it to be 3 by epsilon square. Then for any fixed I, expected value of xi tilde is equal to xi, and probability that xi tilde minus xi. So xi tilde is much more than xi tilde in the sense of epsilon times L2 norm of, L2 norm of 2 is at most delta. Okay. Now, in many cases, like you can verify this. Okay. And in some cases, the L2 norm is much smaller than. Suppose you have a vector where everything is 1000, like that. Like, yeah, you can verify it. Like, let's don't spend too much time on that. Okay. So this is true. Like, so the value, the additive error factor is small in count_min, count sketch compared with count_min sketch. But you are also paying, for that cost in terms of your space complexity, which is 1 by epsilon square there. Okay, so you can verify. The second norm is less than, like L2 norm is less than L1 norm, and in some cases it is much smaller. Okay, let's not spend much time on that. Okay. Okay, now, so this is what we want to prove. Okay, the statement is very identical to what we proved in the case of count min sketch. The count min sketch, we had this, and then we proved this, and or in the like notice that in the count min sketch, expected value of xi tilde was not equal to xi. It was upper bounded by xi plus some quantity epsilon times L1 norm of x. But here, the expected value of xi tilde is equal to xi, and the probability term is very similar. Instead of that L1 norm, you have L2 norm here. That is the only difference. So we are going to prove here, prove these things here, and let's see what all we will use. Okay, and as you pointed out, we will use Chebyshev and Chernoff bound. Right? The median trick is done there. Okay, this I mentioned. And look at the number of counters. Okay, like okay, now later what we will do is d to be greater than log n square or some order log n square, and because of that you will have 1 by epsilon square log n counters, and log n you take log n to hold it for all I with a very high probability, that will take it at the end. Okay, essentially what I want to say is, in the case of count min, the number of counters was 1 by epsilon times log n, and in the case of count min sketch, that will get increased by a factor of 1 by epsilon more because of this. Okay, that is the notable difference, and because of that you will get some advantage in terms of the the approximation factor. Okay, now let us prove this first. Okay, fix an I belonging to n and fix a L also. Like L means like one of the row in that matrix, which means that we are going to fix a hash function HL and GL. And look at the counter value there. Okay, and what is this? This is an approx, like actually you took a median of these values for xi tilde. Okay, so look at this value ZL. Okay, so this will be one of the number which go into the median corresponding to xi. So if you vary L from here 1 to D, and then you will get value Z1, Z2, etc. up to ZD, and you are going to take the median of those numbers to get to, and you assign that value to the xi tilde. Okay, so look at one of those values in that set, that is ZL. Okay, so you just fix L and fix I, that is ZL is the value, this one, the counter value in which I is mapped to by the hash function HL, and then in that counter value you multiplied with the sign of I, and so that this value will be xi plus some quantity. Okay, so xi will be added positively and the other may be added negatively or positively. Okay, okay, now so I know that this is xi plus something, and that something, like how does that something will work out? I prime not equal to I, and HL of I prime is equal to HL of I, and then the sign the sum corresponding to I prime, that is xi prime will be added positively or negatively based on how GL act on it, right? How does GL map I prime? GL maps I prime to 1 or -1. If it is mapping to 1, then you will be adding it. If it is mapping to -1, then you will be subtracting it. Is this fine? This is what ZL. What I have written with the purple color. Is that fine? Like maybe don't look into what is written below. Sorry. here there will be GL of I also, because you multiplied with the GL of I. Here GL of I, get cancelled. If it is -1 times -1, if it is +1, then +1 times +1. Is this expression clear? What I have written? More nicely, I can write here. This will be xi plus summation I prime not equal to I, HL of I prime C equal to HL of I, GL of I prime. Is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what you do is, which all get mapped to here, that for that you create an indicator random variable. Let yi prime be the indicator random variable, that is 1 if HL of I is equal to, HL of I prime. That is, I and I prime collide under HL. Now, what is the expected value of yi prime? That is same as expected value of yi prime square, because 1 square is 1, 0 square is 0. So expected value of yi prime or expected value of yi prime square, they are all same. And how much is that? That will be, what is the probability that, I prime goes to the bucket HL of I times 1 plus 0 times some other probability. And what is the probability that it goes to the same bucket? It is 1 by W, because there are W buckets. It will go to one of those buckets uniformly, right? And we are asking what is the probability that it will go to a fixed bucket in which I is mapped to, and that is 1 by W. Is that fine? Expected value of yi as well as expected value of yi, yi prime square, sorry, yi prime, and expected value of yi prime square. Is that clear? Like this one? It's a very simple argument. Just pairwise independent hash triangle. Okay.
Yes.
So now, okay, remember this. Okay, what I have written, like handwritten here. Okay, and what I have handwritten here, I can write it like this. Because see, this is replaced with the random variable yi prime. Okay, and I have not taken this, I prime not equal to I, because yi is equal to 1 with the probability 1. Do you agree with this? See, here I could write xi, yi, gl of I, gl of I plus summation I prime not equal to I, gl of I, gl of I prime, xi prime, yi prime. Do you agree with this? This is equal to this. What is yi? What is the probability that, yi is equal to 1 always? You think that yi is equal to 1 always. Why yi is equal to 1? Because what is the probability that, I map to the bucket where I map to? That is always the case. If I take this definition, what is the, like, yi is the indicator random variable which is equal to 1 if the item I is mapped to the bucket where the item I is mapped to. That is always true. See, this is equal to 1 and this is equal to 1, so xi, and the plus I just replaced this with the indicator here. and hence all the things which is mapped to this only added here. So do you agree with from here to here? Take your time. The first term xi is equal to the first term written below, plus the second term written here is equal to the second term written here. Any doubts, please ask me. Like I will explain it again.
Yes, sir. Can you explain this from start? This equation.
Okay, so you understood this, right? The first equation.
Yeah, sir. From there only.
From there only. Okay.
Yeah.
So GL of I times GL of I is equal to 1. Okay. And yi is always equal to 1. Because by definition, what is yi of yi is equal to 1 if the item I is mapped to the bucket where I resides. That is always correct. So yi is equal to 1 always. Okay. So xi can be written as, GL of I times GL of I times xi times yi, because yi is equal to 1 and GL of I times GL of I is also equal to 1. If GL of I is equal to -1, then it's -1 times -1. If it is +1, it is +1 times +1. So this and this are same. Okay.
Yes, sir. I get it.
Now I'm not, okay. Now I'm just taking out this HL of I prime is equal to HL of I with that indicator random variable yi prime, and I just throw away that from that summation,
Got it.
like that bottom.
Yes.
Clear? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Yeah.
Now from here to here, it's very simple. Nothing, right? Not GL of I is common here. One GL of I is common. Okay, take it out. GL of I. Now I wrote I prime not equal to I. Don't write I prime not equal to I, because there is a term GL of I xi yi. Okay, so that will come here. But GL of I, like, yeah, this term just get inside. If you don't write I prime not equal to I, and you just take GL of I outside. One of the GL of I outside. Yeah, this is not GL of I. Is that clear? The second?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very simple.
I get it. I get it now.
Okay. Okay. So this is it, right? ZL. Now what we need? Expected value of ZL. Look at expected value of ZL. Okay. So actually expected value of ZL. So this I wrote in terms of this one to talk about, variance. Okay. So if you look into expected value of ZL in this equation, what will happen? Expected value of xi is xi plus this term, right? In that term, what you will have, I prime not equal to I, expected value of GL of I prime, yi prime, xi prime. So xi prime is a scalar that you can take outside. The rest of them are all, random variables. GL of I is a random variable, GL of I prime is a random variable, yi prime is a random variable. Clear? Okay. Now, how does yi prime is defined? Yi prime is defined with respect to, the hash function HL. Yi prime is defined with respect to the hash function HL. And the GL of I and GL of I prime, they are defined with respect to the hash function GL. And they are completely independent. How you take HL is completely independent of how you take GL. So I could write, because they are independent, what I can write, this is same as expected value of GL of I prime times expected value of yi prime. Agree?
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now look at expected value of GL. Okay, GL of I and GL of I prime.
Mm.
They are also independent. Why? They are pairwise independent.
There was independent.
Whenever I not equal to I prime, they are pairwise independent. And this you could write expected value of GL of I times expected value of GL of I prime. Correct? Because they are pairwise independent. Okay. Now, what is expected value of GL of I or expected value of GL of I prime?
0.
It's 0, right? Yeah, 1 with probability half and 0 with minus 1 with probability half. So half minus half, which is equal to 0. So what does happen? This quantity becomes 0. And what is left out? XR.
Wow. Yeah.
Clear? Okay, so this is the magic here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got, expected value of ZL to be XI. Okay, now that is what we got. Okay, expected value of ZL equal to, XI. Now, I want to, okay, so where we are aiming for? We are aiming to apply Chebyshev and Chernoff. Okay, if you want to apply Chebyshev, you need to know variance. Okay, and the variance variance of ZL, right? ZL is sometimes our estimate. Like ZL is our estimate, right? So we have like D estimate, and we are taking the median estimate from them for Xi, right? So we have estimate Z1, Z2, etc. up to ZD, and we are going to take the median among these numbers as an estimate for Xi. Okay? Now, and we want to apply Chebyshev. To apply Chebyshev, I need to talk about variance, or I need to compute variance. Okay. So what is the random variable here? Our estimator is actually ZL, right? Okay. Or like various ZLs, like for a fixed L, ZL. And I want to talk about variance of ZL. And what is variance of ZL? Expected value of ZL minus expectation of ZL whole square. Expectation of ZL is Xi. So this is it, right? So by definition, by definition. Okay. Now what is ZL minus Xi? Just come back here, right? So I think I took much time and then explained this. Maybe we don't need this. Okay. Okay. This is what is ZL minus Xi, right? Where it is. ZL minus Xi is this quantity, right? ZL minus Xi. ZL is equal to Xi plus this quantity. So ZL minus Xi is this quantity. Okay. So that is what written here. I prime not equal to I, GL of I prime, Yi prime, Xi prime. Summation over I prime not equal to I, the whole square. Clear? Now this is, you just do this calculation, right? A plus B plus C plus D plus etc. the whole square, which you will get A square plus B square plus B C square plus D square plus etc. Plus you will have AB plus BA plus AC plus CA, like that. Okay, so you do that, what it is, expansion of that like that square. What you will get is that A square plus B square plus C square plus D square. Instead of that, what you will have, okay, GL of I square plus GL of I square, GL square, Yi prime square, Xi prime square. What is GL of I square? Irrespective of it is minus 1 or plus 1, it is 1. GL of I prime square, that is also 1. What is Yi prime square? Okay, that is Yi prime square. That could be either 0 or 1. And what is Xi prime square? Some value. So that will be there. And then there are two terms which are like I prime not equal to I double prime. So, and these are definitely, they are not equal to I also. They are not equal to I also. I prime not equal to I prime. Then Xi prime xi double prime, GL of I prime, GL of I double prime, yi prime, yi double prime. Is this okay? Like just a simple expansion. 1, 2, 3, the third one. Take your time.
Yes, sir, I get it.
Okay. Okay, now what is this term? Can you tell? We have already seen an example. Okay, expected value, expectation by linearity of expectation, it is linear expectation of this times like expectation, I can write it inside, right? Just forget. Now, expected value of this.
Yeah, so again, pairwise independence.
Yeah, again, pairwise independent. Like this is independent with these two. Okay, so I can write expectation. I can take it, inside. Like expectation of these two times expectation of these two. And expectation of these two is pairwise independent. I prime not equal to I, pairwise independent. So expectation of GL of I prime times expectation of GL of I double prime. And what is expectation of GL of I prime, which is 0. So this term is 0. So what you are going to get is this term only. The surviving term is this term. Okay. So what is this term? Summation I prime not equal to I, xi prime square, expected value of yi prime square. What is that? That is 1 by W, right? Okay. What is this quantity here? This quantity is 1 by W. Do you agree? We have already done it here. Since it is indicator random variable, expectation of yi prime is equal to expectation of yi prime square, which is actually 1 square times what is the probability that the I prime is mapped to the same location as I, which is 1 by W, because the other is plus 0 times something. Okay. Now, what does this corresponds to? This corresponds to 1 by W times summation xi prime square I prime not equal to I. And this is at most this quantity. Agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we got? Variance of ZL. Okay, now what is variance of ZL? How much ZL deviates from Xi, right? In expectation, ZL is Xi. Now, how much it can deviate from Xi? This is upper bounded by, like, in terms of like, so you will have a square here. That's what I mean by how much. Like that will be how much? This much. This quantity, like L2 norm square, because this is what it is. So that square root is not there. So because that square root is not there, it is square. L2 norm square of X divided by W. Okay. So what we have done? This is, okay, expectation of ZL is equal to Xi, and variance of ZL is at most the square of the L2 norm of X divided by W. Okay? And W is the width of the hash function. And that we set 1 by like something like 3 by epsilon square. Okay. Now we want to apply Chebyshev on the random variable ZL minus Xi. Okay, that is what, like, expected value, like how much. Okay, so by Chebyshev, the probability that ZL like deviate much from its expectation is Xi, or in other words, ZL minus Xi. Okay, Xi is the expectation of ZL, is more than some quantity, that quantity I said to be epsilon times, the L2 norm of x is at most variance of this. Okay, I should write here. Variance of ZL minus XI divided by this square, epsilon square. Now, variance of this is at most variance of ZL. Sorry, actually equal to. Why it is so? Variance of ZL minus, sorry. Let me see. No. We just need to write like this. By Chebyshev, like x minus expected value of x greater than or equal to some quantity is divided by variance of ZL divided by this quantity. Okay, so clear? You apply Chebyshev inequality. Variance of the random variable ZL divided by what is here, the square of that. Okay. Now, what is the variance of this? We have this quantity, right? You substitute that. Okay. Also, this is square of this quantity. So that what you will get is 1 by epsilon square times W, because this get cancelled. And what we set to W, this is the reason we set to W to be 1, like some constant times epsilon square. So you set to W to be 3 by epsilon square, then you will get this to be at most 1 by 3. Is that clear? Any question?
No, sir, it's fine. Yeah.
Just apply Chebyshev on that. What you will get is this one. So the variance of that will come and divided by, the square of what you are talking about. Like what is the quantity you are interested in. Okay, so that's it, right? So what you got is the probability, like you took L estimates, and what you are going to say is like the median is a good one. Okay, now here what you are saying is like by Chebyshev inequality, what you know is like you pick any of your estimate, which is ZL, that is very close to Xi, or in other words, it is greater than Xi plus epsilon times the L2 norm of X. This is same as saying probability that ZL greater than Xi plus epsilon times X2. These two are same, right? So, and this is by 1 by 3. And how many such estimates you took? You took Z1, Z2, etc. up to ZL, and you took the median of this to be Xi tilde. Correct? Okay. Now what you do? You do median trick. That is the Chernoff bound. Okay. The median trick says, okay, this is more than this quantity, or in other words, greater than or equal to Xi plus epsilon times, or like since here it is a mode value, this is actually within. Okay, or Xi tilde less than or equal to Xi minus epsilon times X2. Why? Because of the mode value here. Okay. So because it can be underestimate also, right? It go more than epsilon times the L2 norm of x, or it go like beyond, like even lower than, you know, an additive factor of epsilon times x x2. Like any one of them happening is upper bounded by e to the power minus cd, where d is the number of estimates you took. Like if you took d estimates and take the median, then by Chernoff bound, like you need to set up those random variables, right? Okay, what is the probability that it goes into the, you know, the first left 1/4 term or the second left 1/4 term? Like that is the argument. You have seen it a couple of times, I guess, right? You have seen it in Morris counter and maybe F2 estimation. Am I correct?
We saw this.
Yeah. Am I audible now too? Something was showing.
Yeah,
yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. So this will be upper bounded by e to the power minus some constant into how many estimates you took. Okay, that's what, like if you work out the details, that is what it is. E to the power minus some constant 1/4, or I don't remember what is that constant, times d. D is the number of estimates you took. Okay. And what is the number of estimates you took? The number of estimates you can take is log 1/delta times, say, 1/c. Like, so you take this many estimates. Suppose you substitute d is equal to this much. What you will get is this to be at most delta. Okay. So because of that, what we have proved is this. Okay. So that constant is actually 4. That's what it is written here. So for any fixed I, the probable, like expected value of xi tilde is xi, and the probability that, you know, your estimate is much more than this xi is upper bounded by delta. And what is the meaning of much more than? It is written here. Either it is getting too much overestimate or too much underestimate, because there is an absolute, value written there. Like, and now I want to talk, say that it should happen for all I with a good probability. Like with a good probability for all I, xi tilde is a good estimate. Okay, so what you do, the same idea, like instead of 1/delta, you substitute 1/delta to be n square. Okay, sorry, 1/delta to be 1/delta to be n square. Okay, and then for any fixed I, xi tilde is much more than, is a worst estimate, like a bad estimate with probability at most 1/n square. Then you apply union boundary and you say like, okay, there exists an I such that xi tilde is bad is with probability, like there are n estimates. So n times 1/n square, which is 1/n. Which in other words means that with the probability 1 minus 1/n, for all I, xi tilde is a good estimate. The good is this. Clear? Like it's just a very simple, union bound. For that, I want this probability to be too tiny. Okay, because I want this probability depends on the number of hash function you take. And it depends logarithmically, and this logarithmic dependence comes from the Chernoff bound. When you do this Chernoff bound kind of argument, it's like logarithmic dependence there. Okay, and that's it. Okay, we got this. The number of counters is 1/epsilon square times log n, because we needed this. Like I assume that each of the time delta t is a constant. Okay. Then any question? Okay then.